Packers fans out here to stay. Cheeseheads green and gold all day. Jordan Love lead us to the bay. Every game we find a way. Green Bay hustle, grind it up. Hit the field, we don't bluff. Touchdown dances, feel the love. Jordan's got that MVP stuff. It's time for all, let's go. Packers bringing that show. It's time for all, you know. Green and gold gonna glow. Lambeau Field, our sacred ground. Feel the vibe, hear the sound. Packers fans so loud and proud. Jordan Love, he's wearing the crown. Lambeau Field, our sacred ground. Feel the vibe, hear the sound. Packers fans so loud and proud. Jordan Love, he's wearing the crown.
Aloha and welcome back to another episode of the Ohana Packers Edition podcast. I sputtered on the intro and I'm still doing better than the Packers offense did tonight. The Packers find a new way to find a new low on the season and just sink closer to 500 again after an absolutely dismal offensive showing on Monday Night Football. We have like a bunch of different ways we can try and beat the dead horse in this episode, and I think that Joe and I are gonna, the game was not entertaining, it wasn't fun, and I think that the two of us are gonna try and entertain ourselves over the next however long we don't put into this episode. But Joe, glad you made it home from work safely, and that was more effort than what the Packers put on offense tonight.
And I mean we'll get into it more in depth when we get into our segments, but I go back to Jordan. I don't think it was too horrible of a game plan. I mean, yeah, there were some boneheaded play calls in that, but Jordan just looked lost out there. And he looked jumpy. And he was quick reading things instead of letting it like develop. And even Aikman, with as many concussions as he's had in his life, was seeing things that Jordan was missing. And it's like, who do you blame on this? I mean, I can understand blaming LaFleur because he's got to prepare his quarterback, but I think a lot of the blame goes into Jordan right now.
I think it's LaFleur, and I don't mind that we differ on that. I Jordan wasn't good. I'm not gonna try and sugarcoat it or put paint on the pig or anything like that. He had the aborted snap right after the fumble recovery. He blows the 2 minute drive with the fumble on a just a you know. I know some people are saying know when to let the play die, but also Jordan knows that it's that dumb position where it's like he knows he can't take a negative play, but people that are saying, "Oh, just take the sack, Jordan." It's like if he takes the sack there, they're not in field goal range, and Jordan knows that. And I just think I agree. Jordan needs to be better. I'm not good. Like I said, I'm not going to sugarcoat that. And at the same time, I don't agree that Lafleur is doing enough to either prepare him or.
Uh-oh, Quano's internet is not cooperating tonight.
So my
Okay,
internet
start
still,
over.
my internet still came back faster than the Packers offense came to life this game. It didn't take 58 fucking minutes for my internet, but no. So like I do agree with you. Jordan needs to be better, and I'm not going to come here and tell you that like what he did was fine and he put on a winning performance or anything like that. It wasn't good enough either. And at the same time, Lafleur is. I don't believe Lafleur is doing him any favors out there. People, I'm kind of glad, honestly. Love. I don't want to say he threw Lafleur under the bus, but I'm kind of glad Love went out there in the post game and was like, "That wasn't my call on the fourth down run." On the fourth down run at the end of the game, because some people are gonna say like, "Oh, Jordan has always fallen on the sword. Jordan has always taken gunshots for everyone else on this team." And right or wrong, I'm kind of glad that he's like, "Hey, I have a spine and I have a soul, and I don't like being the center of blame for everything out there." And A, there are people in the Packers beat, some newer and some very senior, who are peddling hard on the LaFleur doesn't trust his quarterback topic. And Jordan definitely sees that. And I do think Jordan is legitimately a good, nice person kind of thing and stuff. But at some point, everyone cracks, and he does need to play better. He absolutely can and should be playing better. And at the same time, there's a part of me that's glad that he went and said, like, hey, like, that wasn't my call. That was the call I was given, and I ran it kind of thing and stuff. At the same time, you're right. He has to be better. He I don't want to say, and I do, as much as I respect Troy and I do like Troy as a commentator, I do hate when, especially former quarterbacks, are like, he's got to see that. I'm like, you're not playing behind this O line, and you're not the one, and that's the thing is, it's like, you're not the one who goes out there and has to throw when it's 3rd and 9. It's like, oh, like, your warm up is turn around, hand the ball off twice or 3 times, and it's like, oh, it's 3rd and 9, Jordan, save us, and it's like, you pulled the hand grenade pin and threw it to me with 2 seconds off, and you want me to do what? And Jordan can be better. He needs to be better. At the same time, I just don't like what LaFleur is doing. To me, he's being the worst kind of stubborn. And it's just, I think it's a big problem with where this offense is. And I have a totally left field way I'm going to go with our fresh topic and stuff, but uh, my frustration and honestly why, like, I'm just not firing off the top step tonight is, honestly, at the end of this game, I kind of just shrugged my shoulders and just, like, was like, yeah, I kind of expected that to happen. Like, there's honestly a part of me that's numb to this season already, and a part of me that's in a way dead inside about it, because I just already, a part of me is like, whatever. Like, I I didn't want it to get here, but it was kind of that thing that you brought up about LaFleur. Like, there, you brought it up as early as week 2, and we kind of like both took turns being like, okay, which one of those is a potential trend, and which one of those is like, maybe it's just a situational thing due to how the roster is, or injuries, or all that kind of stuff. And man, like, so many of those things we talked about in week 2, week 3, those things are popping up all over the place. And like Wendell Ferreira. And I do agree, like, I'm as frustrated as I am with the situation with LaFleur, with how Love is not performing. I'm not all the way at fire LaFleur yet, but the part where I kind of disagree with Wendell is like, I don't, Wendell says like he shouldn't get fired over one bad month. The thing is like, is it really just one bad month, or is this the sign that things are taking a disconcerting, like, death spiral downturn? And LaFleur had about as close to McCarthy, I'm a very successful head coach moment in the post game. And I get it. I don't totally blame LaFleur, because I do think there's an element of him being shell shocked as to how poorly it went tonight. But also, like, that's your whole identity, is you're supposed to be this whiz kid savant, and your offense looks stale. You're so predictable. Like, people joke about the second down and long runs, but it's like, the fact that that fourth down play is becoming a meme, because whether the Eagles guessed it or they knew the sign or whatever, the fact that they all see the shotgun formation and they all point in the direction of where the play ends up going, like, if everything up to this point hasn't shifted LaFleur on how he needs to adjust and just literally do something different for the fuck's sake of doing something different, I'm afraid nothing will. And if that's the case, I don't know if he's going to survive through Thanksgiving. I don't want that to be the reality, but if he's going to continue to be adamantly stubborn to sticking to things that this team cannot do well on offense, this stretch of game, he's not going to win a game in November, because these teams that they're playing, like New York's front, is just going to eat his front alive if he doesn't change how he operates. Same thing for Detroit. Like, I know that they've had success blocking up Hutchinson and all that kind of stuff, but this defense isn't going to hold down this Detroit offense if the Green Bay offense isn't scoring. And then if you're just moping into that post Thanksgiving game to play Minnesota, Minnesota's going to jump you. And what have we said all season long? These NFC North coaches will come out to embarrass you. And I know that like everyone's like, what the fuck was Philly doing at the end of the game? All that kind of stuff. Sirianni's like, I'm gonna put my boot on your neck and your I'm gonna crush your spine. And it didn't work, so it's like, oh my god, he almost let the Packers tie the game at the end. But even that isn't a reality that the Packers can live in because again, poor decision making, poor process by LaFleur, and it's just the same beats that we've been either concerned or very wary of throughout this season. They've all come to bite the Packers in the ass over the last couple weeks. And like I said, there should be options for them to move forward and to improve. But frankly, we've hit the point where I don't know if LaFleur is going to do it. And that's a spooky place to be right now.
And to kind of go back a little bit, I'm not taking all the blame away from LaFleur,
Oh, yeah. No, no, no. And I'm not saying you are either. Yeah.
but it's hard to do stuff when your quarterback is regressing also. Because they showed the stat. Yeah, he only passed for six. He only threw 6 times, but he only completed 2 out of the 6.
Yeah. And like I said, that's where it gets into Jordan's got to be better. But also, you run it like I know it's not 20, but it felt like it was 20-6 in the first half. And you just don't run the ball well enough and you don't match up well with this front. And it just goes back to the point of like it's the it LaFleur has become so predictable that they're playing Indian poker. Like his offense is out there playing Indian poker with the defense, and they just don't do the fundamentals well enough to play that way. Like they can't do the Lombardi Packers. We're gonna run the Green Bay sweep, and we're gonna tell you which way we're gonna run it. They don't do anything on offense well enough on a down to down basis to operate with that kind of frankly misplaced cockiness from LaFleur. Like, and that's the
But
part that
then again,
I'm
I
frustrated
have to
with.
give. I get you, but I have to give him some credit because, yeah, people were getting pissed off at it, but I looked at it as he's actually trying to make adjustments. When the camera cut to him sitting on the or standing on the sideline,
Yeah,
looking away from the field, looking at the tablet and working on his play thing. And then he was also trying to throw stuff in there to, he sent in Kennard as an extra lineman. That kind of
yeah,
hit him a little bit hard because it's like, well, we never done this before, so we don't know how to line up type thing with the penalties.
yeah,
But that's what I said. I don't so much put this all on LaFleur this game because it looked like he was actively trying, but he was reverting back. And on top of that, like I said, Jordan wasn't sharp.
yeah.
Jordan looked like he regressed. Why isn't Jordan, one of the things that everybody loved to question when Rodgers was still here when LaFleur took over, well, are you going to let Rodgers have, Rodgers is known for changing things at the line. Why isn't Jordan doing a little bit more of that? Obviously on the 4th and 1, LaFleur sent in the call. You see the defense fucking doing whatever. Jacobs came out and said that he heard them say that they knew the play call. Why didn't you check into something? Why didn't you?
Or like I said,
Well,
he just needs to like kind of have a fuck you moment and just keep the ball there kind of thing and stuff. Like, yeah, I like I said, no one is fully responsible or culpable, but like the my thing with LaFleur is like, you're right. Like, and it sucks because it's all compounding, but what worries me is he doesn't look for a solution until like it it needs to be halftime because like until halftime he's like I'm just gonna stem the bleeding and I'm gonna revert to my worst traits kind of thing. And honestly, it's kind of a miracle the defense held the Eagles scoreless in the first half. yes, like one of the lone bright spots was Edge Cooper punching that ball out to like stop the Eagles from scoring on their opening drive. That was a definitive bright spot. The defense came to play all game. Yes, they gave up the touchdown drive. Like that was unfortunate, but at some point when you give one side of the ball no margin for error, the other guys, the whole other guys get paid too and all that kind of stuff. And playing defense is hard. like I don't care what anyone said. And Domovsky had the tweet where all three of the Packers' losses are by 16 points or less, and it's like the first time in like 50 years that that's been the case for. I don't think even just the Packers, for like any team, period, kind of thing. And it's like, what are the? It's like you hold other teams to 17 or less, and you score 20 or more points. One side of the ball is holding up that end of the bargain. The other side has flunked epically on so many cases. And I do agree with you. Like, there's so many layers to the like, where is LaFleur responsible? Because it's like, you're right. He can't go out there and play for the guys. And at the same time, like, have we entered the paradox of, are there too many yes men in the room? Like, that's why I had the tweet earlier today that, like, and everyone, not everyone, but a lot of people were like, why would you want Dable? But I'm like, if you're LaFleur and you're so hell bent on being this run heavy offense, then bring in another person who has that same mindset, and you guys can brainstorm and see how you want to put together a better run game, utilize the pieces you have, whatever. Maybe Dable is the one that says, like, you need an outside voice to be like, we need to shuffle this offensive line. I know it's the middle of the season, but it's not working, and more importantly, it's never going to work the way you have it right now. So like, you have half a season to figure it out, shuffle the deck and go, kind of thing. And my frustration to concern is like, LaFleur just keeps turtling inward and going to, at some point we're going to knock the dam down. We're not even like splitting stones or anything. We're like barely dropping dirt off of it. But at some point we're going to break through, and it's like we're just getting washed further and further downstream, kind of thing and stuff. And like, that side of it, I know we're not really going by our time. I feel like there's
We'll get
so
into our topics here pretty
yeah.
quick.
I just I was honestly trying to figure out how, like, in the time between the game ending and to when we started recording, I struggled to put this into the context of how we usually run our post game shows, because I'm like, we're so close, and we don't do the like let the game breathe for a day kind of thing. Right now, I'm just like, I have no answers for this team, because they should be getting guys back healthy. I don't know when. We just found out Elton Jacobs broke something in his leg. He's done, likely for the season, probably as a Packer for the rest of his career, in all honesty, which is an absolute shame for his career to end that way. People are like, oh, Jaden Reed. I'm like, I don't know if by the time Jaden Reed is healthy, I don't know if it's going to matter. And I know that's like a really pessimistic way to view it, but realistically, again, it goes back to, what is LaFleur going to change? Because, and that's my whole thing, is I totally understand what you're saying with Love hasn't been good enough. Is he regressing, stagnant, whatever? But I'm like, you're not good enough to win games the way you want to, LaFleur. And every week, and that's the thing, is like, you're not even just losing games to good teams by being this stubborn. You have lost 2 games to bad teams in this league by being this stubborn, this unwilling to go for fourth and shorts in plus or near plus territory, choosing the decrepit kicker over and over and over again. And I tweeted this. This is 3 weeks in a row, 2 games where he's lost you the game because you've missed kicks, not attempted kicks, because you don't trust him. And honestly, the Pittsburgh game, if certain things don't play out in that one the way they do, that's 3 games in a row that McManus has severely screwed you in games because he's just not up to the task of kicking. And people that are getting on LaFleur for, oh, you wouldn't let him kick a 50 whatever yarder, but you have him kick a 64 yard. I'm like, by that point, do you have
Yeah,
any faith Love is gonna, like, it's like, do you have any faith that Love is gonna have time to like run around to throw a 60-yard Hail Mary? I didn't. So like, I know some people are like, oh, you gotta try the. I'm like, I mean, on the other side, like one of the things you brought up is he's trying to protect Love. I do think he's looking at it like, well, I can't try another Hail Mary against this same team and have Jordan fuck up his knee 2 years in a row on a Hail Mary that, what's the percent chance it's gonna work? Like 10% maybe kind of thing. So I think he's like, fuck it. Let's just see if we get the kick and like I said, that again goes to bad decision making, not sensing the pulse of your team, not leaning on the wrong people for to determine decisions and stuff. And like I said, I don't know like this is, like I said, it's three strikes you're out, and McManus is still here, and he had the comment after the game like, oh, this is the first week that I'm healthy. Dumbass, you cannot fucking say that when you're the one who's like, I'm good to go. Like, that pissed me off so much when he came, for him to come out and get in front of the media and say, oh, this is the first week that I'm like feeling healthy. Fuck you, bro. Like, fuck you. Like, that is absolute fucking bullshit. For you to get injured coming out of the bye, and then the week of that week that you got injured, you're like, no, I'm good. It's like, fuck you to come out here 5 weeks later because you shit the bed 3 weeks in a row and try to say, oh, this is the first week that I'm feeling healthy. No, get the fuck out of here with that crap. That is absolute horseshit. Like, that is like, I joke that Matt's a coward for not going for fourth downs. That is a guy who knows that he should have been cut 3 weeks ago and is like doing what, I have no clue who he's got pictures of, who he's got dirt on, whatever. And some people are like, "Oh, Gutekunst." I'm like, Gutekunst doesn't want to look like the micromanager here, and he's trusting the two guys that are out there watching him practice every day. But like, sure, like if I was good, I would have cut his ass. Like, and you notice that the people who got on us for being like, "Why are you active?" or "Why aren't you keeping Haversack active in Pittsburgh?" or "Oh, you're just reading too much into the 61-yard kick." No, the two of us both said we trusted the guy who put kicks down the middle of the fucking goalposts. And now that the old decrepit kicker is like, oh shit, like you know, like that is so fucking chicken shit and cowardly to come out now after for weeks. Basically, he was stabbing LaFleur in the back with his, "Oh, I told Matt I was fine." And LaFleur kind of like laughed it off and did the like, "Oh, I guess I don't talk to kickers" kind of thing and stuff. For you to come out now after Monday night and be like, "Oh yeah, like I'm just healthy." Get the fuck out of here. Go back to Jacksonville, you loser. Like, that's
Okay.
bullshit.
before before you keep going on the rants, let's go ahead and just jump into our segments here and try to steer the show back to. I love this. Steer the show back to
I found the
something.
angle.
All right, so I'm gonna hit the button.
Mmm, fresh cheese.
All right, was there anything that you can call good on that came out of this?
Like I said, Edge had the forced fumble. Overall, like, I know some people are like, "Oh my god, the Valentine missed tackle," and then Evan Williams getting supposedly the coverage safety getting lost in deep zone coverage. But at the end of the day, when your defense gives up 10 points to a Super Bowl contending opponent, you expect to win that game. And like, yes, the touchdown was unfortunate and all that kind of stuff, but that should have been enough. Like, that absolutely should have been enough. So yeah, and people are gonna complain that they didn't get a sack and blah. You forced a turnover to kill a drive. You kept, even then, like you played the way you wanted to, and you were coming out ahead. Like on a defense, like if you frame this game as just the defense, you're like, the Packers should win this game. And so that's my fresh takeaway from the game is the defense did its job and played with some pride tonight.
The only couple knocks that I think you could put on the defense for the night is, yes, I'm going to say they weren't able to wrangle in Hurts too well. They were able to pressure the hell out of him, but they weren't able to connect. Now that's not like a horrible thing because you're right. They held the reigning Super Bowl champs to 10 points. Keyshawn, yeah, had that great pass breakup, but he still didn't look great out there. He allowed one of the big catches to, was it Devontae?
Yeah, I think
I
so.
think it was Devontae.
Yeah, the 3rd and 12.
And
Yeah,
then, yeah, and then, yeah, Evan was a little bit, but he had some plays in there that were pretty
yeah.
solid.
Like I
And
said, we're talking about 2 plays out of what's the total defensive. Like
oh hell,
we're
I don't
talking
know.
about like 3 plays out of 60, where it's like, oh my god, like what the hell happened, kind of thing. And there was a couple more. You had the long pass play to Goddard down the middle of the field, but it's like, okay, 1/12 of the game, you're like, ugh. But the rest of it, like I said, you hold an opponent, you hold a Super Bowl contender under 300 yards of offense in a game where you never led, and it's like, and that's an opponent that all they want to do is salt the game away. It's like, I can't ask for anything more. Like, of course, I'd love another turnover, like, but they got you one, and you
Yeah.
did nothing with it. So yeah,
And late in the game, they did let the Eagles drive a bit. That kind of hurt because of the clock management type thing, but
yeah,
nothing too much to complain on. I mean, they held Jalen to 183 passing yards. They held Saquon to 60 rushing yards. Jalen only managed 27. And Saquon only had the long of 15, and that was the longest run he had for the day. But I'm going to narrow mine down to even further than just the whole defense as a whole. I'm going to throw Carrington out there. Carrington played great. He did have a couple of spots where just like, I wish he would have done better. But, covering a couple of their top receivers, he was pretty well lights out for the game. And I I don't know if he's on drugs or in too many head injuries or whatever, but that guy is goofy as hell. Celebrating some of the weirdest things out there, but I love to see it. I loved seeing him get his shine, especially after whatever it was, why they weren't playing him, giving him almost any snaps when Hobbs was quote unquote healthy. The only drawback, and I can't believe I'm saying this, as two guys who have been heavily against picking him up, the only drawback is I wonder if this pretty much pushes Asante Samuel Jr. out.
yeah. Like the thing with Asante Samuel Jr. is, it's like, okay, he's medically cleared, but then it's the whole like, he's. I think what people need to look at is like, he's looking for the team that he has the most clear path to a starting or heavy contributing role, because from his point of view, he needs to play, and obviously he has to play well, but he just needs to play to have a chance to play well. And I don't know, realistically, it should probably be a decent shot in Green Bay, but Green Bay is not going to just come out and say like, oh yeah, you're going to come in and challenge these two guys right off the bat, kind of thing.
I
Like,
don't think any team's going to give him that kind of
right,
shot.
yeah. And none of them's going to give him money
I
because
said
he's
it,
coming off the kind of injury that you're not going to guarantee money or anything like that.
yeah. Well, I
Yeah.
said, I don't know if I actually put it on socials or if I just said it in our group chat. I'd be willing to do the Christian Watson type deal.
Yeah,
Give
yeah, yeah,
him the rest of the season this year. Let him get back into game shape. Give him next year. Basically it'd be a 2-year deal. This year, next year, and then if he plays well enough, he can go get his bag. If he plays middling, you hang on to him. You give him a
yeah.
minor contract or whatever. But I and like I said, this is from two guys that have been railing against signing Asante Samuel Jr. since the beginning. I do think they need the depth there
Yeah,
because we are one injury away from Kamal Hayden being put in or Bo Melton put in. Not saying those are bad guys, but once you do that, you have no depth after that.
yeah. That's the thing. Is like, our whole thing against the Samuel Jr. signing is just like, that would probably have been your only deal in the offseason at corner. Granted, ours was Nate Hobbs, so it's kind of like, okay, like, what did you really get? But at the time, you look at Nate Hobbs, who, yes, he's unfortunately continued his track record of having nagging injuries, but Asante Samuel, you didn't know if he was going to play this year. He's coming off of spinal fusion, and you didn't know. As much as anyone wants to say, like, oh, he should be back, you don't know. Like, you just don't know. This whole he's ready before Thanksgiving, that was never a guarantee. No medical professional is going to come out and say that. And so that's
And
why
even
we
just
were,
to kind of
yeah,
jump in there, even if he was cleared like he is now, we were guaranteed he's going to be cleared like he is now.
right,
He's still got to get
exactly.
into game shape.
Yes. Yep. So it's so what we're trying to say is like our reservations in the offseason were he can't be the only move. Now, this shows how dire your options are, where it's like there are no good options on the free agent market. And I keep joking, it's geriatric Stephon Gilmore, possibly you don't know the long term health Asante Samuel Jr. And then like the other names on the free agent market, it's like old friend Kadar Holman. Like that's what's on the free agent market at corner. Like those
And
are your
I don't
options.
know. I don't know what's on practice squads either. So I mean,
Yeah,
there
yeah,
could
yeah.
be maybe a squad guy. Maybe go back and get King from the Panthers practice squad or whatever. But
Or like Robert Rochelle or something like that, who
yeah,
like they just couldn't quit for the last couple of years. But like
or
that's
there's
the
the guy out there on the practice squad like a Razul Douglas that you can do that kind of pickup or whatever.
yeah,
But I just back to my original point. I just hope this doesn't completely take that off the table.
yeah,
Because even though I don't think he's going to be starting from day one, and I don't think any team's going to pick him up to start him at day one, unless it's like the Raiders or something. And I don't think anybody wants to go to the Raiders and start from day one with the shit that's going on out there. But he would be a depth piece. He would be a veteran depth piece. He would be that boundary guy. He would allow, even if he comes in and plays at 80%, and can show that he's the same guy as he was his rookie year, that would allow you to move Hobbs into his natural slot position, have him rotate around with Bullard or whatever, and again, that would be your depth piece, and have Asante rotate in and out with Valentine, who has looked damn good, or just have him rotate in and out with Nixon. Let Valentine go off in his little island or whatever you want to call it, and have Samuels Jr. switch in and out with uh, Nixon. Because again, I have said this since they've released Jair. I've said this since he made the comment in the I don't know. I think it was in the off season or last season or whatever. Nixon is not a true number one corner. You're lucky if he's even a true number two.
he's a 2B at
Yeah.
best.
So, but anyway, I narrowed it down to Carrington Valentine. He's been looking great. You know, you you hope this continues with him, but it also goes to show something else that we have talked about, especially last week against the Panthers. When you have a good pass rush, it makes your corners look a lot better. And when you don't play scared off zone, you look a lot better.
Yep.
And even though, the Packers did come out on the losing end tonight, the corners looked a lot better. The defense looked a lot better. They didn't look scared. I think there was one moment, and it's boggling my mind. Even for some reason, Halfley looked down. It's like, what the fuck's going on out there?
Yeah, I think you're talking what I couldn't watch the game because fuck you Disney, but
I
I,
told
I
you,
I saw there was
pirate.
a. I'm a family man with kids now. Unfortunately, the pirate life is behind me. But oh, Marisol's laughing. But let's see. My there, I did see the one where I forget who tweeted it. I'm sorry that I'm not giving credit, but it wasn't just one person. There were a couple tweets that were the whole Hafley just looked down and was kind of, you can see him mouth, "Where's Parsons?" And Parsons is
Yeah,
on the
that could have been
sideline.
it too, but it just seemed like he said, like, "What the fuck's going on out there?"
Yeah,
And that was kind of weird. He would be missing for like good chunks of drives, and that was just really weird. I don't know if it's still his back is bothering him, or I
I
guess
know
he
he
had
popped
that
up with the,
injury with the
yeah.
chest or whatever. But anyway, you got anything else you want to consider fresh? I mean, there's a low hanging one just because they force fed him, and that's Josh Jacobs again. He did really good with what little that he was given. He did steal another soul tonight. We need to keep like a tracker of these, just how many souls he steals in games and at the end of it. But other than that, is there anybody else you can really throw out there, or any other things you can throw out there?
my my asshole off the wall one. Thank you, Brandon McManus, for proving me right about what I was saying 3 weeks ago.
Uh,
But
Musgraves. He actually stayed on his feet after
yeah,
making a long catch, so I got to give that to him.
yeah, and like I know people are like kind of giving, but I'm like, again, you're Lafleur is using him for the stuff he used Kraft for, and it's never gonna look the same. And I like, and at the same time, it's the whole like, no, it's not as good as Kraft did it, but it still got you 8 yards. Like you gotta
Oh
spam
yeah,
that, and you gotta spam that, and then spam the play off of that. Like that's the part. Like I said,
Musgraves is never going to be your break the tackle.
no,
Push
he's
the
too
drive
high. Yeah, he's too high hipped and unbalanced to do that. But yeah,
and ballerina legged.
yeah. So no, I think I'm done with fresh unless you got any more that are hanging back.
No, not that I know of. I'm trying to run through the game. Sorry, that kind of hurt. I guess you could kind of throw Josh Wiley in there because he was doing a heck of a job as like their fullback protector.
Sure, like I said, I didn't get to watch the game, so
Well, he had some pretty solid lead blocks there, so that really helped Josh Jacobs out. I know they went away from it because of what was going on, but if this would have been a normal game where the Packers were driving at will, that would have been a real plus, especially for a guy that's just coming off of the practice squad.
Mhm.
So I'm trying to look at the bright side that you could tell that they were missing the hell out of Tucker Craft tonight.
Yep.
That's for sure. And they have nobody on the roster that's going to be able to fill Tucker's spot. So,
No.
all right, I'll hit the button.
What's this stale shit?
Do you got anything that's going to fit in the stale? I know I can't think of anything that's going to be. Maybe some of the things that I talked about defensive wise could go in the
Yeah,
stale.
like I guess like the only negative for Carrington is a big one. It's the missed tackle on the screen. And okay, I'm not making it. That's never going to be his strong suit. And for all the people that are like, "Oh my god," I'm like, you act like he's the first guy that Saquon did that to. He's not the first. He won't be the last. Like it's not.
And on
It's
top of
yeah,
that, if your corners are, I know they're defensive players, but you shouldn't expect your corners to make those giant friggin' tackles.
and like
They're there to. They're kind of like a road cone that just tells you, hey, don't go past this cone,
yeah,
and long enough for the other big guys to come in and make the play.
yeah. So um, like
I can't think of anything that's going to be strictly stale. Like I
yeah,
said, just some of the things that
everything
I've
is
already
way more
talked about
teetering
on
to
the defense.
moldy. Yeah. So
Yeah, we'll just go ahead and
It's a moldy cheese.
I've already talked about it. Jordan Love, he's really looked regressed the last couple of weeks,
right.
and
It's
and
I don't know how chicken or egg it is and stuff like, and I don't know when we're gonna really find out. We know that we've seen that guy, the good of Jordan Love. We've seen him as recently as 2 weeks ago, and we see it on plays here. Even the couple of throws he made to Watson tonight, for the couple longer throws, the one that got called back on the illegal formation, like you see the flashes of that guy still in there. And like you said, I don't know what you got to do to get more out of him from that. Like I said, I think you're at the point that I think you do have to start taking drastic measures. it's sort of getting into that Eric Stokes Valentine conversation we had last year, where it's like this team has made it very clear they don't want Rasheed Walker back next season. They probably don't care if Sean Ryan is back next season. So again, why are you wasting time and snaps with Jordan Morgan at center? Who, by the way, on that ill-fated fourth down play late in the game, is in Jacobs' lap in the backfield. Like,
And you traded for this guy from Philly, and he's not seeing the field or on anything except for tonight. He was in as the extra guy.
yeah, which solved one of our questions going into the game. But
Right. So I agree. I fully agree on that. But you could tell he was scared. And you can't be jumpy in that situation.
yes, I
It's
totally agree with you with that. Is that while I am frustrated and obstinate that LaFleur has to, like, I'm so tired of the first two plays of a game being a run kind of thing. Like, this team can, and honestly, this was a like, Collinsworth was bringing it up in that Seattle game last year, where it's like, it's great that you got the good Jacobs, but there's conversations of like, well, the Packers passing game, is it getting off to slow starts because you don't throw the ball early enough? And well, I'm totally on the side of you do have to get the pass game going early. You do have to get Jordan in rhythm. I totally agree that like Jordan hadn't really been hit yet, and he was already wild and like a little erratic and stuff like that. And I don't know, like, if he saw stuff in the run game that it's like, oh god, like the interior is already getting taken advantage of and all that kind of. And at the same time, like I said, as much as I don't like even former quarterbacks over critiquing, like, how did this guy miss this look? Because I think former quarterbacks of all people really need to tone that kind of talk down. I don't mind when they talk about like you've seen the throw and you missed the throw, because like that part of it I agree. Like there's a, but when they do the whole like, oh, he's got to see that, I'm like, I I've played football, or I played quarterback on an organized Pee Wee team. That's as high as I played quarterback on. And even at that level, the like learning to throw between windows in your linemen, learning how to make your reads to where you can see between your linemen and stuff like that. And then when you have to adjust for your right guard doesn't have bricks in his back pocket and can't hold his water, your left tackle, you don't know if he's going to block the right guy on a consistent play to play basis. Like, you start to add all those things in, and this doesn't at all excuse Jordan. Like you said, at the very base of it, Jordan's got to be better. Jordan is not blameless in tonight's game. I don't even want to say he played good enough, because like there were enough plays he could have made that were either dropped or whatever kind of thing. Jacobs looks the wrong way on a route and all that kind of crap. And at the same time, he definitely missed as many as there were of those where guys dropped it or whatever it did kind of thing. The frustration I have is, yeah, I don't know what the solution is, because like I said, we saw unconscious good Jordan as recently as the second half of the Steelers game 2 weeks ago. And that front is honestly rushing the passer better than the Eagles are. And I know that the Eagles have two better corners than the Steelers have two corners. And yeah, but I'm like, it shouldn't be that bad. And I don't like the, oh, Tucker, and like, you had a whole week where you knew you didn't have Tucker. It's not like Tucker got injured on the first play of tonight. Like, to me, I have always hated when people turn to that. Like, he's gone. You knew he was gone. You probably knew, honestly, he was gone during the Carolina game. And you looked as inept tonight for most of this game as you did late in that Carolina game. And that's inexcusable, both from a coaching and a quarterback play standpoint. So, yeah, I agree. I don't know how to fix that, but I'm also not the one paid to fix that, which goes into my moldy. And it's like, and I brought it up at the top. And like I said, I'm not at the fire. And I see people turn. I love Joe Arrigo, and he put out one of those like, okay, like, who do you want and stuff. And we've gone back and forth a little bit, and he goes, and because I put out Halfley is probably like the first option to like get elevated if you were to move on, and then like like a Joe Brady or someone like that, and then I just threw out fuck I don't even remember his name, the offensive coordinator at Oklahoma, and Joe rightfully is like they're not hiring a college OC, and I said, Joe, honestly, that just shows how much I didn't expect to be here at this point, that I'm this far along with being potentially done with LaFleur. Like I said it earlier in this episode, you and I have gone back and forth about, like, okay, there's some repeated problems with how he calls games. Your whole joke with the, does he really think we only have 500 points a season to score? And like, we were having fun joking about it in week 2. It ain't fun right now in week 8. And, like I said, there's been a lot of people who have said, like, you're just over complaining about little things, who have gotten really quiet over the last 3 to 4 weeks. A bunch of them about McManus, and a lot of them about LaFleur are running out of ways to excuse a lot of, like we both, I definitely do agree with you. Jordan has to play better. But my whole thing with LaFleur is, I don't think this run game is getting better. Without doing something drastic like shuffling this O line around, I don't think this run game is getting better. I think this run game is, as you call the offense now, is gonna be predicated on how many guys can Jacobs drag for how many yards. And that cannot be the backbone of your offense. And like I said, I'm getting pretty sick of a couple people, not a couple. There's a bunch of people within the Green Bay beat that are doing the, is LaFleur afraid of Jordan? He better, like we've been saying it for a month, he better fucking get unafraid of Jordan, because he ain't lasting through November calling this kind of lame duck shit offense. Like, they are going to get that. They're not just going to lose games. They're going to get embarrassed on Thanksgiving. They're probably going to get embarrassed by the Vikings if he doesn't. And that's the thing, is like, my concern is, there's this, and I agree with you. He did try to like adjust at halftime and stuff, but at his core, he keeps, when things start to not work, it's like, I gotta just turn around and hand the ball off. It doesn't matter that it's only gaining 2 yards a carry, and it's like, just kneel and punt, or punt on third down. Like, what? Because
Now you know what it's like being an Iowa Hawkeyes fan. But I'm going to interrupt you here because
No, go for it.
I want to throw some of the stuff in there too. One of the one of the moldies that I'm going to throw out there that kind of goes with what you're talking about are the people who are saying, well, he needs to give up play calling. Who's he going to give it up to?
Yeah.
I don't trust Stinovich to call plays. We see what he does
we saw it in the preseason. It's going to be a worse version of LaFleur, and that's my Michigan Wolverine. That's the guy who kept Jake Long from starting as a redshirt sophomore. Like, that is a decorated former Michigan Wolverine, and I love what he did as an O-line coach. That's another really fifth layer LaFleur panicking over Stenovich getting job offers after Hackett left and all that kind of stuff. Like,
but you know what's funny is they let him go on the interviews and he's never got job offers.
Right. And like, I know it's hard to like stick to this in the moment, but offensive line coaches very rarely become offensive coordinators unless they get promoted, kind of thing. Like, the few are Stenovich and like Tom Moore, who was Peyton Manning's offensive coordinator. But it's like, Peyton's like, give me the O-line coach so that we can, like, he basically is the passing game coordinator, and I just need the offensive line guy to like coach these guys up and protect me, kind of thing. But like, I think I do, and this isn't a thing that's going to get fixed now, but I do think that LaFleur's offensive staff has hit that stagnation point, kind of like McCarthy's did at several points in his like middle to late tenure in Green Bay, where it's kind of like, you had the same voices in the room for too long. You've had some guys who've left, like Getsy, and come back, kind of thing. And I agree, like, And those are kind of like the same, like I said, with the whole, oh, who are you going to get that's better than LaFleur? That cannot be the basis of why you keep someone at this point, because whether you believe it's a top down or a part down, like at some point you have to have a heart to heart where it's like, okay, why is our O line play falling off? Is it because Stenovich isn't coaching them full time? Like, all right, Adam, like, you know, we'll still pay you like you're getting paid right now. You'll be the highest paid fucking O line coach in the NFL, but we need you to coach O linemen. And, if he can't handle the demotion, then it's like, hey, James Campton, can you come back and coach O line again? Kind of thing and stuff. Tauscher,
And that kind of goes into what I, because it's usually the offensive coordinator that is instilling the stuff in the game plays to the players. So while we sit here and complain about LaFleur's play calling and that, why isn't the offensive coordinator prepping these guys for what they need to be?
And that's the whole, we're not a fly on the wall in any of these. We don't know how LaFleur operates, like my belief has always been, when you have an offensive minded head coach, whichever side of the ball a head coach comes from, traditionally, that's the side, like, they're the de facto coordinator kind of thing, and then like the coordinator becomes like the most highly regarded quality control coach ever in the in relative terms kind of thing. And so yeah, like I said, the coaching side of it, I don't think is going to change in season. It would, for even LaFleur, like, as much as I'm frustrated, you're frustrated, whatever. That's not, like I said, the only way LaFleur gets fired in season is if they just fall off the table the rest of November and they look like a
The
dead
only
stick.
the only thing coaching wise that I could see happening is bringing in somebody, not this person specifically, but do what like they did with Sala,
Yeah,
and bring back a Nathaniel Hackett as an advisor, or like you said, Dabble as an advisor, or
yeah,
somebody else that is from the coaching tree, that that they know the system, that they can come in and say, hey, we know this isn't working, so we need to start doing this.
right,
We know
yeah,
this isn't working, so we need to work on this. Because I have a feeling that's the whole issue right now, is he's got a bunch of yes men, and they're just saying, yeah, yes, coach, yeah, that right, coach, yeah, you're good. The only and that's, as much as I joke about Luke Butkus, or it just, how I joke about, I wouldn't want to tell him he's fired either, and stuff like that. But he's obviously not doing
as good
a
of a
very
job
good
as
job.
Stenovich did. Yeah, like, it's not even necessarily that it's a bad. It's just not as good as when Stenovich was the O line coach. Like, that's just a fact. I get that there were better. There's not a Bakhtiari or a Prime Jenkins or whatever kind of thing, but the overall play of this O line. Stenovich had Runyon Jr. playing like a fringe Pro Bowler. He had Myers looking solid as a rookie kind of thing, and all and you had Billy Turner able to play either tackle spot and stuff. And you're getting run out of, oh shoot, what was that tall guy they got from the Titans? But yeah, like,
Oh yeah,
yeah.
um,
Kelly.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, like, you know, you're just not getting that kind of return on investment anymore. And I
And on top of that, why aren't they saying, hey, maybe we need to slot this guy in over at this position? Hey, why aren't we moving this guy? One thing that I've been thinking about this whole time, and now with Elton most likely done for the season, at least a season. I'm not going to say done for the, as a Packer, whatever. I'm just going to say done for the season, because I'm living one season at a time. They keep talking about how Zach Tom could be an all-pro center. Does this mean that it's just, instead of forcing Sean Ryan out there and having even worse offensive line play, or do you slot in this guy that you keep talking about could be an all-pro center, and then sticking a Kennard or a Belton or whatever at right tackle? Then you can move, Morgan over to left tackle if you want. I still believe in Rasheed Walker, but for some reason the Packers don't. I know he's had and one play today was he misread something, but that's a misread. You can't really you know completely blame him on that. He just misread it. But I the whole point is that's why I say that I think he's just got a full complement of yes men in the offensive coaching staff
Yeah.
because and I keep fucking saying it, and I keep saying it. He needs to cut the damn cord on Bisaccia already because I think he's listening way too much to Rich. That's why we're stuck with McManus. That's why they keep pulling. That's why they have a 3-year deal on Orsic now. That's why they have all this shit going on. He keeps listening to the guy, and he's not helping out any.
No. And like I said, that falls on LaFleur. Like that is your guy. And I get it. Like I've gone out either on here or just on Twitter and said like as much as everyone thinks it's just so easy to move on from coordinator on special teams, like there is a breaking point where it's a small pond and people aren't going to want to work for you because it's like at the first sign of trouble you're like I am going to be like the fans say and just fire the special teams coordinator. Like you can't have a new one every season kind of thing unless like that guy is somehow getting hired for a better job every season. Like that that's not a tenable thing. And at the same time you're completely right where it's like we can't continue to lean on your expertise if it ain't working out kind of thing. And
Quote expertise.
and like you hear the stories that they don't necessarily watch film. How much are they repping certain things? That Bisaccia is more of a feel guide. He's like an old school feel and vibes coach than he is like a advanced metrics and statistic. And
Well, I tell
especially
you
like
what, he can feel and vibe himself in the corner while the rest of them do their actual friggin' job.
feel and vibe in the corner. That's Brandon McManus's music, but
So I don't know, and I
yeah,
don't want to keep beating a dead horse on this. So what else
yeah.
do you want to kind of bring up, or is that all we really want to
Well,
do
and
for that?
just for one more, so that's actually in the segment, a hearty fuck you to Brandon McManus for trying to pull that chicken shit interview of how, oh yeah, like okay, wait, you know what, I'm gonna be fair and get as good of a quote on this bullshit as I can.
And while he's pulling this up, I want to tell all the listeners that I have been trying to talk Mike into having his own little segment as a sideshow as Mike's Tantrums, where he can just go off on these things and maybe we'll make you guys pay for it because these are some of the funnest things in the world to listen to. Even Marisol, his wife, sits back and laughs at the shit that he says when he gets pissed.
But like, oh fuck, of course I can't find the goddamn tweet right now. Fuck, this is pissing me off. But yeah, for him to come out, like I said, he injures himself coming out of the bye because he's old. And what do we hear all that week going into the Cincinnati game? I'm kicking. I'm fine. And he gets mad at LaFleur for saying it was a potentially big issue and potentially long-term injury, and Matt has to laugh it off with the oh I guess I don't talk to the kickers joke, ha ha ha. For you to come out 5 weeks later where I guarantee you, and Tosher called him out on it, that, after the Pittsburgh game, that he's like, I think McManus felt the heat, Haversick comes in, he's perfect, he kicks the franchise record kick, and you're like, and he goes, hey, I've been there as a veteran, and I've thought, oh shit, I gotta go and get my job back, kind of thing. But it's like, dude, you're hurting the team. And like I said, you're like a razor's edge from it being 3 games in a row. Basically, the team would be back at 500 that you screwed the Packers by shanking kicks or just being so unreliable that LaFleur's like, I can't kick from here. Like, that's, like I said, it doesn't absolve Jordan, but I know in LaFleur's mind, and I know somewhere in Jordan's mind, at the end of the second quarter, Jordan's like, I can't fucking lose you. We're on the 30-yard line. If I lose yards, I actually need to gain yards because I was on the 27 and this dude shanked one from 44. And I think I think Justice Mosqueda retweeted someone else's where he said he's 3 for 9 on kicks outside of the red zone. That's a fucking abysmal rate. And some of those, I know most of those are after the injury, but some of those are before. And like I said, it absolutely astonishes me that because he came in and kicked 2 game winners in his first 2 games as a Packer, people were ready to just take bullets for Denver Mason Crosby with an off-field track record. Like,
It seems to me there were two guys that are on a low listen podcast that kept telling people that, McManus is not the answer. McManus is not the answer, but they kept thinking he was the golden goose.
and this isn't even for us to say that Havrasek definitely is the answer, but this is 2 games in a row where he has changed how LaFleur has called the game because starting with the Carolina game, he shanks the 40 whatever yarder. And what did I say? It's like a baseball player or a golfer where you know that you can't hit for power anymore. And so what do? You start pulling the ball to your you start pulling to your power side because you're like, I gotta just reach back and crank with whatever I can crank with. And that's why he's pulling them to the left, is because he's like, I just gotta get under this thing and pull it. And I knew, I was like, honestly, with the 64 yarder, I was like, just don't call timeout, Philly. If I just need him to go and run into this and kick it, because if he comes up short, which he did on the practice, I was like, there is no way he's making the actual one. Because
Was it tipped or something, or was that just a horrible friggin' shank on that
I
actual
think,
try?
and so what some people are saying is that Orzik snap, surprise, surprise, was bad on the real kick, and that threw off the timing. But I was like, he didn't have a chance in hell because he saw he came up like a yard or two short and was like, okay, so if I just knock the slobber on it like an inch higher, kind of, because you like, he's like, okay, I got a little under it, so if I hit it a little higher, it's gonna do that. You know how Crosby would do that thing where he would kind of knuckle it
That
from
weird knuckle, yeah.
yeah, and so he's like, if I hit it almost mid stride, middle of the ball, like you hit it like a couple inches lower than middle of the ball, it's gonna get enough loft to get over the line, and it's gonna knuckle its way through, kind of thing. And I was like, he's gonna fucking throw it into the back of someone's head. Like, this is like, there's no way. But yeah, and then I had someone say like, Orzik's snap was bad. I was like, that's another LaFleur and Bisaccia
We've been
special.
saying that for the last 2-3 years.
Like I said, Dan Whelan got 2 guys extensions, and he got them extensions before he got an extension. God damn it! So,
And
ugh,
I don't know. I'm to the point where, and the thing is they're keeping both of them on the friggin' roster. Why not keep them both active?
yeah, and like,
Because I would have. There is no rule that says if he kicks it on a practice one and completely whiffs that you can't bring in the other kicker when
exactly.
there's no rule against that.
Well, and
And
then
there
that's
are guys that they could have sat that would have been just fine. But then looking at, okay, I have one more stale, and this is going to be more my rant because it's some stupid ass shit. I don't know who's making the decisions on this, but you brought Christian Welch up, you signed him to the friggin' active roster, you didn't play him one bit, you never used any of his elevations prior to bringing him up to the active roster, you didn't use him once, you release him, luckily you're able to re-sign him back to the practice squad, nobody picked him up. Then, following that, you elevate him for a friggin' game. Why? What is the thought process there? You could have left him on the active friggin' roster and you wouldn't have had to use any elevations. I get it, maybe Mosby was out of elevations or whatever.
But then you should have just signed Mosby to the active roster instead of potentially exposing Welch to waiver. And that was the part that I couldn't understand, because I was like, because they like signed Welch and then they elevated Mosby, played Mosby, and then like cut Welch or whatever. And yeah, it, like, my whole thing with it is like, you had just lost Ben Sims to waivers. Like you literally were a week out from and
And
you
how's
had
that
just been
doing
like,
for the team right now?
yeah. And you had literally just been going like, oh, we had wanted to get him back to the practice squad. That one's on Gutekunst. That's a like, and I'm sure there's a little bit of like, oh, back and forth with like LaFleur and therefore Bisaccia and like who's the more important special teams player, blah blah blah. I know that it's a little more 1-to-1 because Nick Neiman was is a linebacker, and Welch is a linebacker. But it's like you said, Mosby was either about to be out or out of elevations. Welch hadn't had any use, and it's like, so if you aren't sure, just bring Mosby up and just elevate Welch as you need to, kind of thing, and stuff. And like, yeah, that one is just a weird. Like, it was such a weird roster management decision. Like I said, and if it was the only one, it wouldn't have raised the red flag as much. But the fact that it came literally on the heels of losing Ben Sims to waivers, that was the part that I was like, did we not learn any? Did you not fucking learn anything
On
from?
top of that, this comes off of last year when they cut him at the end of the preseason and he signed elsewhere. So you're taking the chance that he's not going to want to come back to Green Bay. He's going to look for an opportunity elsewhere.
Yep.
So I don't get it. I think it's mostly I get Gutekunst is the one that has to do the transaction actions and all that stuff, but he's also got to rely on what the coaches tell him.
Right.
He can go up to LaFleur, say, okay, which guy who is expendable to you on the roster?
Right.
Because we have to bring somebody up. We have to do this. And if LaFleur goes to Bisaccia and say, hey, Rich, who are you wanting for special teams? And that's who he's telling him, then that's the way it goes. I can't put it all on Goody. I can't put it all on LaFleur. But
And at
it's
least
an
with
easy
the
share.
Yeah, and at least with the Sims ones, it's like, okay, yeah, we got to bring Christian back. And it's like, okay, you're going to lose an offensive player for another. And no, like, no one could have known Kraft was going to blow his knee out literally a
No.
week later. Like, that's just cascading shit luck kind of stuff. But the Welch Mosby situation was so weird because, and like I said, this is neither of us thinking either of these guys is going to be a Hall of Famer or anything close to that. But it's like, you definitively could have, you just lost a guy because you had to cut him and you were hoping to get him back to the practice squad and you couldn't because someone signed him. And like, just okay, so like, for example, like Welch getting cut going to the Broncos last year, Alex Singleton just had to have, he had to have surgery to remove testicular cancer. If you had done this cutting this week, the Broncos might have signed him off of waivers to, and so it's like that kind of like,
And they still can sign him because he's only on the practice squad.
right. But at least, in the waiver process, they're like more guaranteed to get him as opposed to the whole like, it's like more of a negotiation signing him off the practice squad and stuff. So it's like, I know that most people will look at these kind of things like, oh, it's not that big of a deal, but it's like, it is because you're trying to like manage all of these roster decisions. The whole point is that Welch is a guy who's been Welch, Mosby, those are guys who have been in your system for multiple seasons kind of thing. And it's like, and honestly, people are gonna say like, oh, you're just saying this because Welch went to. If they had done the same thing and lost Mosby to waivers, I would be as irritated because it's like why did you risk it when you like didn't if like Welch was the one out of elevations and Mosby had all his elevation and you like signed him, didn't use him, cut him, and he gets claimed, and then it's like, why didn't you just bring Christian up in the first place, kind of thing. So yeah,
I
it's just
can disprove the whole Iowa thing, even though, yes, Welch went, because on top of the whole Welch situation, you knew you were going to be down a couple of guys for wide receiver. You didn't know that Dobbs was going to end up going out with a chest injury, but you knew you had a guy on that's active that's going to be limited because he's just coming back from a major knee surgery. You knew all this stuff. You have a guy that I do like, Bo Melton. I like, he is what he is, but you've been training him all off season and throughout the season as a cornerback, and you're going to make him then go and play wide receiver again when you've got guys on the practice squad that you could have called up and
And I know
had
some
them
people are
play.
going to be like, oh, like, but only Michael Wood's only been there like a week or two. Keeney
You've
James
got the
and
one kid
Nair,
from
yeah, Isaiah
yeah,
Nair and Jacoby Keeney James, they both been there the whole season. Like
and
those
Will
guys,
Shepard. Will Shepard's on
yeah,
the
and Will
practice
Shepard.
squad
Thank
too.
you. Yeah. So you have three receivers who have been there the whole of the 10 weeks. At a couple of them, and Shepard and Naylor have been there the whole like training camp on kind of thing. And it's like I like Melton's athleticism, all that kind of stuff. But it's like you cannot tell me, or that is a severe indictment on your coaching that you are more confident in a guy who is playing a totally not even like a different position on offense. He's not even on offense, and that you're like, I'm gonna bring this guy back to offense over these guys who have been practicing these positions all season. Like,
On top of that, isn't the kid from Maine also like a special teams ace? So that would have helped out a ton with the kick and punt returns. And
yep,
Will Shepard was doing some of that shit during the preseason and was
yep.
looking pretty decent with
like
it.
we like I said, this is where my whole thing with LaFleur is like there's just so many layers where it's like there's just so many multiple on multiple like organizational cracks that are have formed that you're like, oh god, like he's gonna run out of fingers to plug the holes in the wall before it all comes crashing down on him. And like I said, I'm still clinging to the because he's a good guy. Like LaFleur is a good guy. He's a good dude.
Well,
Uh,
maybe.
maybe
I've heard some things so far.
and we're not talking about the Xbox content creator. No, like,
No, no.
no, but like, I do want to see like the like nostalgic sports fan in me always wants to see the guy who builds something get to see the fruits of his labor and his creation come true, kind of thing. Like that's sort of like the whole romanticization of sports and stuff. But like I said, I keep going back to what we were talking about. You and I debated in week 2. Should we be concerned that this game, that Washington game, was a one-score game midway through the fourth quarter? And you were concerned, and I wrote it off as like they're kind of limited. They're dealing with a limited O line, blah blah blah, all that kind of stuff. The O line's gotten healthier, and we're still seeing the same problems. Like, and like I said,
God, are you trying to say I'm smart or something? Or I know what I'm talking about?
yes, and it just gets to the point, like I said, and LaFleur was asked, like, do you feel like you're coaching for your, like, and I see people complain, like, you didn't ask. I'm like, they asked him as much as they're going to ask a coach who's still in the playoff picture.
And on
Like,
top of that, you're not going to get a true answer out of him
no, no,
anyway.
no. Yeah. And I think LaFleur's answer is a good one that, like, he's like, he didn't just say, fuck you. Like, he didn't blow off the question. He gave, like, hey, we're all coaching for some kind of job, whether it's the one I've got or the next one kind of thing. And, like, some people don't like that answer, but that's the answer for him, every coach, every player on a roster kind of thing.
And we all know the truth anyway, yes, because Ed Policy came out and said he's not going to extend these guys. He'll look at it at the end of the season
Yep.
and go from there. Well, so far, Goody has been the only one that's saved his job.
Yeah. And
That
even
Parsons trade.
Goody's still got some holes on the roster that he's got to address, but Goody's the one who, hey, I pushed all my chips in. And like I said,
But I
LaFleur's
also
getting
go back to the fact that he's also having to listen to what his coaches are telling him.
right. Yeah,
Because
yeah,
he
yeah, yeah.
can't just go out and sign a guy and say, here,
Right.
you're stuck with him.
Right.
You know,
And
that's what we used to yell about with Ted Thompson is he just go out and sign a guy from Buckwheat
yeah,
college in backwoods North Dakota or whatever and say, here, you fix him. You do something with him.
yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Like, people like blast Gutekunst for we like our corner room. We don't know if that's Gutekunst saying that, or if it's Halfley saying that, or if we don't know if that's a hive mind thing, or if it's one side telling the other that we're fine. I can make it. Halfley saying like, if you give me a Micah Parsons, I'll make all this other stuff work, kind of thing. Like, we don't know, but Goody is the one who's taken his nuts and put them on the table, and it's getting to the point where LaFleur's got to do the same. And it's like I said, I'm definitely not all the way there yet on fire him, but he's got to make some wholesale changes to show like I said, my thing is, do you understand what who your team is and what they're good at doing? So far, I'm concerned he doesn't see it or doesn't want to see it. And that's the part where I'm like, I don't know if it's a wholesale O-line alignment change, if it's an offensive philosophy change. Do something. Like, just do something, because literally banging your head against the wall with this run game is not gonna get you anywhere this postseason. It might not even
And
get you
to
to the
the
postseason.
Yeah, and to your point with the wholesale offensive line change, he's going to have to do it anyway. With
Yep.
them losing Jenkins, they're going to have to shuffle that line. I cannot see Sean Ryan being the starting center going forward. I
Yeah.
I
And
mean,
I do think he was actually okay at center today. But yeah, like, you cannot just say he played decently in the second half. We're good with it. Like, you've got to like I don't know how they really feel. They just cut Lasita Smith from the practice squad. I don't know how they feel about Monk. I think Monk is a center only, and so it's like you got to, at the very worst, have him and Ryan really duke it out for that starting center spot now. I wouldn't move Tom yet, just because if he were healthy, I would think about it. But I still think, like, he's been dealing with injury all season long, and you've just not had any sort of continuity. So it's like you want to have one certain thing in life. and and it would be one thing if Belton had been healthy this whole time. But it's kind of like that might be too many deck chairs on the Titanic kind of thing. But like I said, the one that I'm looking at is, and you're right, like, Walker has his moments, and at the same time, the way I look at it is it's such a Stokes Valentine situation to me, where it's like, and it's past because the Stokes one, it was like, if Stokes showed any signs that he was going to be the player he was as a rookie, they would have kept him around. They would have found a way to keep him around, but he couldn't, and he's gone. With Walker, the stuff I'm hearing from like four different reporters or people with insight is like they're just playing this season out, and whatever happens with, in terms of comp pick recoupment from him. So I'm kind of like, if that's the case, like, he's not getting any value by playing, so just pull the ripcord and move on at this point. You keep saying that Morgan is your left tackle moving forward. I believe it more than I ever did going into this season, after seeing how he played in the preseason, especially that Colts game where he actually played against some starting players for the Colts. Like, see what it looks like. And at absolute worst, if he's not playing anywhere else on the O line. So if you sit him, if Morgan can't do it or gets hurt, then you can put Walker back in there, and he's still playing for his next contract. Like, whatever, he got benched, his feelings are hurt, blah, 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 all that kind of shit. He's still playing for his next contract. He's not going to go and just shit the bed, because that means he ain't playing in the league next year. So, like, no matter what, he's got to play the best he can. Like, that's like the golden ticket, so to speak, you have in your back pocket, is like, yeah, you might bench him, whatever, but yeah. So, like I said, I don't know which buttons to press, but that's why there's certain people getting paid millions of dollars to do that. And it's time. Like, it is time, because you're halfway through the season, and I don't know what the identity of this team is, other than being maddeningly inconsistent. I have no idea. And this is where we've kind of cautioned against this at different points of the season. This is where the 23 and 24 season have kind of both gone off the rails a little bit. You get into these situations where they have like a couple losses, a couple dumb games in a row kind of thing, and the tires just seem to fall off the vehicle. And LaFleur, Love, the two of you got to figure it out, and you got to pull us out of this potential nosedive, because for as much as, oh, this league is so up and down this season, you're third in the division right now. And you can say all you want about Chicago being lucky, this and that and whatever. They've been lucky more times than you have at this point this season. So you better fucking figure it out, because you're going to be the one left in the dust if you keep getting stuck in the mud, because everyone else doesn't seem to be having that issue around you.
okay, I'm going to bring up two more things, and then we're going to wrap up, because
Yeah.
we're going a little bit long, and I still got to get this thing out so people can listen to it. One is the reffing wasn't as bad tonight. but they still had their moments.
The false
And I
start.
know they did the 1-for-1 with the false starts, but then it got a little bit sickening after that. And there were a couple of times that it's like, why didn't you throw the flag for DPI and shit like that? And number 2, can we please stop with these weird ass winning streak type deals? Because every time you guys bring them up, the Packers shit the bread. So this one was the Packers are 7-0 on the anniversary of playing on the sinking of the anniversary of the sinking of the Edmund Fitzgerald. Well, last week it was, or not last week, the week before it was the Pittsburgh thing. Well, they almost blew that one until the second half happened. What was the other one? There was one other one that happened, and it's just like, stop. Enough. Because all you're doing is trying to give us false hope, and streaks are meant to be broken. There's a reason why Joe DiMaggio's 56 straight hit games is still a record. There's a reason why Brett Favre's career starts is consecutive starts as a record.
Vicodin.
You know, Cal Ripken Jr. same way. They end up ending. They end. So, yeah, stop it. Stop it.
And on that note, we're going to stop this episode because I can't believe we found this much to talk about after, like I said, this game.
Oh, there's a shit more we could probably talk about, but I'm getting tired. I'm ready to friggin' edit this thing and put it out. Otherwise, we'll be still talking until 6 o'clock in the morning when this thing should be popping out.
But yep, the Packers are gonna go to New York or I guess New Jersey technically next week to face the Giants.
And if they lose, I'm blaming Ramage because Ramage is going there is going to be in New York, New Jersey to watch the game. So if they lose this one, it's all Matt Ramage's fault.
You heard it here first, folks. But please check out the website, ohanapackers.org. Please support us, get some merch on the site. Please follow us on social medias at Ohana_Packers on Twitter, at Ohana Packers Edition on Instagram. Search Ohana Packers Edition on Facebook. Please follow the podcast on your favorite podcasting apps. Please give us a like and a subscribe. Joe's been doing a good job about putting out tweets before the episodes. Please send in your questions, comments, thoughts. We will respond to those in due accord as anyone does reach out. We have done it in the past. We just haven't gotten many recently. But yep, the Packers don't have time to lick their wounds. They've got to get back on the winning track. Still searching for their 6th win on the season as they go to face the Giants. For Joe, I'm Mike. We'll catch you on our opponent preview. But until then, say go Pack Go and aloha.
Packers fans out here to stay. Cheeseheads green and gold all day. Jordan Love lead us to the bay. Every game we find a way. Green Bay hustle, grind it up. Hit the field, we don't bluff. Touchdown dances, feel the love. Jordan's got that MVP stuff. It's time for let's go. Packers bringing that show. It's time for you know. Green and gold gonna glow. Lambeau Field, our sacred ground. Feel the vibe, hear the sound. Packers fans so loud and proud. Jordan Love, he's wearing the crown. Lambeau Field, our sacred ground. Feel the vibe, hear the sound. Packers fans so loud and proud. Jordan Love, he's wearing the crown.